Dish is still wet from you.
It's time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Bill Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, the first Talking Tuesday of this 2018 college football season, and Sports Talk is all over it, as you might expect. Phil Kornbluth on the road, the final stop. We saved the best for last here on Sports Talk, the final stop of the 2018 Palmetto Pigskin Tour. It started earlier this month at South Carolina State. We have been to the upstates. We have been through the Midlands. We have been to the coasts. And we are back in the upstate. We're at Limestone College, home of the Saints, where they have a brand-new football coach. They'll be opening their season on Saturday. Coach Tony Iruli, the new head man with the Saints, and he'll be taking his team across the border to Boiling Springs, North Carolina, all of 16 miles to play Gardner-Webb to open the season. On Saturday, we will hear from the Saints. The Saints will come marching in. Thought about that all day. The Saints will come marching in. A little bit after the top of the hour. Meantime, that was Will Pelagic in the background at our studios in Columbia. the Professor Tom Hayes back with us as well. And we have, of course, coverage from today's pressers in Columbia, where Will was there for Will Muschamp, and I was at Clemson for Dabo Swinney. We'll bring you comments from the two head coaches as they kind of lay it out for you as far as their teams are concerned, looking ahead to their season openers on Saturday. So it's a Talking Tuesday. We'll be doing most of the talking tonight because we've got so much good stuff for you. We may be able to squeeze in a quick call or two. If you have something you want to get off your chest, on your mind, 800-956-7266, the number. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com. And, of course, follow us and communicate with us on Twitter at SportsTalkSC. So at Clemson today, it was the first time for Dabo Swinney to talk about Kelly Bryant being reaffirmed as the starting quarterback going into the season. The announcement came yesterday that Kelly Bryant would be the starter. Today, Swinney met with the media and a lot of good things to say about him. Said he had a great year of preparation going back to January. Of course, folks remember the spring game when he didn't look all that good. But outside of that, through their practices and their offseason preparation, apparently Kelly Bryant has led the way. Trevor Lawrence, he said, has done well enough to earn playing time, which he will get against Furman, as will Chase Bryce. But it's Kelly Bryant, the man leading them forward into the season. Though he said nothing is guaranteed, there is no lifetime contract or anything like that. It's all performance-based. Otherwise, it was really no major news, nothing on an injury. From an injury standpoint, everybody seems to be healthy and ready to go. The positions are all set, and the Tigers are optimistic about this upcoming season. And, Will, what about the Gamecocks? First chance to look at their depth chart. And there were, I think, maybe a couple of surprises on the depth chart.
There were, Corn, and good afternoon to you and to Pro. The surprises, not necessarily of the names that are involved, but basically where those names were placed. The safety spot, which I think many believed was Nick Harvey's to lose, ended up going to the other graduate transfer in the secondary, and that is J.T. eBay. eBay, the senior graduate transfer from Rice, beats out the former Texas A&M Aggie. Harvey will play, according to Will Muschamp, so that's not something to be worried about there. The two corner positions, Keyshawn Nixon and Rashad Fenton, those are the two starters there, with J.C. Horn, the surprise starter at nickelback. They also say that Horn will rotate in some outside, and that Jamias Williams basically has to be relegated to a backup role. He gives the backup safety to Stephen Montack, the backup nickelback to J.C. Horn. He'll also be seen somewhat on the outside. A couple of the other position battles that were hot were at weak side linebacker, where the sophomore Sherrod Green, in a surprise, beats out the elder statesman Eldridge Thompson. A little bit of a jockeying position at Buck, with DJ Wanham, of course, holding off two other comers. He was, of course, a highly touted guy last year, but he will have backup reps split by both Danny Fennell and Brad Johnson, so those two will get some positioning early. The two freshman knee tackles, J.J. Enigbare and Rick Sandage, will get some time as well, according to Muschamp. Enigbare clears the depth, though, even though Rick Sandage does not clear the depth, he does see those two as interchangeable parts, does Will Muschamp. On the offensive side of the football, really no surprises. All four tight ends, according to Muschamp, will play. Casey Crosby, Keel Pollard, Jacob August, Kyle Markway. The three running backs behind, Rico Dowdle, who was named as the starter, Tyson Williams, A.J. Turner, and Mon Denson, all will get equal reps. And the big question on the offensive line, who were the men behind the number one all-replacement guy, Malik Young? The top five are basically set across the front. Dennis Daly, Zach Bailey, Donnell Stanley, Sedarius Hutchinson, and Blake Camper left to right, with Malik Young, the interchangeable first man off the bench, if you will. Will Muschamp said he has very, very big confidence in offensive guard and center Chandler Farrell. Also, Javon Gwynn, Jordan Rhodes, and Dylan Wanham as the sensational standout freshmen who will have to play pro in order for Muschamp to at least maintain some semblance of depth on an offensive interior.
Well, you know, the key point of South Carolina, I think, probably now, especially with the second teamers, is you're going for guys with quick feet, athletic, versus someone with more experience. They want guys who can stay with some of these quick rushers and these rushing packages that they'll have to deal with throughout the season. And these guys are going to learn on the run. And that's one of the reasons South Carolina was successful in recruiting them, because, look, they say you're going to come in here and you're not going to be sitting on the sideline, you know, just holding a clipboard or watching somebody do everything else. You're going to be out there and playing. So ready or not, here we go.
And the readiness of two freshmen, one on each side of the football, I think dominates this corn. Not just J.C. Horn on defense, but Josh Fan on offense. The freshman for Tucker, Georgia, is right behind Deebo Samuel in the depth at wide receiver. He will see action early and often, and he has certainly impressed those in South Carolina's camp.
Well, I think the key to eBay, when you looked at him and when we saw him when they first said they were recruiting him, and Corner attests to this, we saw that he'd love to come up and hit on the run.
Mm-hmm.
But with that hip, you would have thought they would have brought him around slowly. But surprised that he's going to play, no. But surprising that he's starting. But I think he's one of those guys that Muschamp likes because he likes to come up and hit on the run.
Way I look at it, biggest surprises would be Jamias Williams, not a starter anywhere in the secondary, backing up at safety, backing up at nickel. J.C. Horn coming in and taking that nickel spot. I wonder if the shoulder's still bothering him, the height's a factor, or maybe he just didn't have the kind of camp they were looking for. eBay was a guy who was dealing with an injury for much of camp, so he wasn't all that talked about in terms of being a possible starter. So he must have had a really good last 7 to 10 days of camp to get in there and win the safety spot. And then Nick Harvey moving him from corner to safety certainly gives them some depth back there and helps to shore that up. I like the corners. I think they've got 4 really good corners. I mean, we know what Keyshawn Nixon can do. The guy showed the end of last year that he's a ball hawk, and Rashad Fenton is proven. So you got 2 older senior guys there and the 2 freshmen. Mukwamu gives you the length to put in against a big receiver when needed. And then, again, J.C. Horn has just blown them away in camp. I think on the offensive side, I think the key is how well they hold up at right tackle. If Blake Camper can play as well as they think he can based on his performance in camp and in the offseason workouts, and that'll be good. If not, they'll have to rush the true freshman in there at right tackle to help shore up that side of the line of scrimmage. But Camper had his troubles last year. There's been a new dedication by him to becoming a better football player, and apparently it has paid off. And then Rico Dowdle. Man, I just want to see Rico Dowdle have a healthy 12 games and see what he can do, not just running the football, but catching the football. I think this guy can post some huge numbers.
I think he can. And the thing, too, that South Carolina will have to post is they will have to post good defensive pass rush numbers. You're going to see Aaron Sterling in on a lot of passing downs. Same thing with Shameik Blackshear. They've said they're going to move him inside. Keir Thomas is somebody who has proven that he can rush the passer. He's up to 276 now, playing on the interior. That's not necessarily big for a defensive tackle, but he has Javon Kinlaw to bookend him at the D tackle spot at 6'6", 305 with a certainly retooled body. Your phone call is always welcome, 800-956-7266, although this day mostly reserved for the coaches. And we'll hear from Dabo Sweeney next on not only an opening statement, but an opening statement to a season where they take on Furman with a reaffirmed starting quarterback in Kelly Bryant on Sports Talk when we return.
This is the place to talk Tigers, Gamecocks, and more. Sports talk across the state on the South Carolina Radio Network.
It is a Talking Tuesday here on Sports Talk, and it is also the final stop of our preseason Palmetto Pigskin Tour as we continue that, courtesy of the folks at Palmetto Pride. Did you know throwing a plastic bottle out of your car window could cost you $100? Don't get caught trashing South Carolina by law enforcement. Wait until you reach your destination and toss your trash in the proper bin. Learn more at revised South Carolina litter laws by visiting palmettopride.org. And this is, again, a reminder to tell you guys who are across the state, who have fan bases all across the state, not just South Carolina and Clemson, will be coming to you for various games all across the Palmetto State football season. We'll be doing our in-season tour here again, and very, very excited to once again get out with the people, Corn.
We love to be with the people. We are the sports talk show of the people here on Sports Talk. By the way, you know, I gave you the hint last night about the new host for the Tiger Tailgate show on the Clemson Radio Network. I was not able to, of course, reveal who that person actually is. We can tonight because they've officially announced it. It will be our friend from WSBA TV Channel 7, Pete Yanity, will be hosting the Tiger Tailgate show. He'll be assisted by Mark Childress and Daja Dial. They'll be the co-hosts. They'll broadcast 3 hours before kickoff. Childress hosts a show in the upstate of South Carolina, and Dial, well, here's a reason to listen, okay? The reason to listen is not Pete or Mark. It's Dial, a former Miss South Carolina and Clemson cheerleader. That's why I would tune in.
There's orange in the tailgate.
Oh, you missed it last night, Pro. I actually said, I asked Will, I said, what color is predominant in Clemson's end zone? He said, of course, orange. I said, oh, you mean there's orange in the end zone?
Oh, no.
Duh. All right, so Dabo Sweeney today welcomed us all back. He was glad to see me. Boy, I thought he was going to start crying when he saw me come in. He hadn't seen me, since the end of last season, so he was just overwhelmed with emotion that I was there to cover the season opening press conference. He got Furman coming to town, the Paladins, of course. That's an old rival of Clemson. That was Clemson's first football game way back when, but the Tigers, of course, dominating this series, though Furman has won 10 times in its history, but Clemson has won the last 30 meetings between the two. Typical Dabo Sweeney. It's game week. It's season opening week. He was in a very good mood.
Man, it's game week. I'm excited. I really am. I mean, this is just so much fun to have an opportunity to get back on the field and play, and I'm ready to kick it off. I'm cannot wait to see our team play and just kind of see where we are. I think that's where every head coach is at this point. Is it's just game one, and all right, we're gonna. You can only find out so much in practice, and so I'm just excited to see how we handle a game atmosphere and just play somebody and get some knowledge on where we are and what we got to do to continue to improve. And that's what we want to do. We just want to get better one day at a time, 1 week at a time, all year long, and give ourselves an opportunity to have a great season. We've had a really good camp. It's been a tough camp, and I think that the team is well prepared for the totality of the season. That's what we try to do through camp is expose them and get them ready to what they're going to see and what we think we need to be able to do from a schematic standpoint all throughout the season. And I thought our guys handled that very well, and we came through it in a good fashion. We're, for the most part, a pretty healthy team, so I'm excited about really having good depth as we kick it off. Furman, just a few things about them. First of all, I really like Clay. Had an opportunity to be around him a little bit over the last couple of years, and just a heck of a football coach, a great man, and very, very good at what he does, and very impressive what they've done at Furman. Just last year, I think they were one of the most improved teams in the country. I think they went like maybe +5 win total up, from the year before. So just really impressed with their season last year. They had a heck of a run into the playoffs and just got better and better as they really, I think, have bought into what Clay's trying to do there. So, impressive. It's one of the, again, one of those games where sometimes I think people say, well, you're playing firm and this and that. And we don't ever look at it that way. We really don't. We just simply, we have a standard, and it doesn't change whether you're playing a 1AA opponent or you're playing in the national championship game. Standard doesn't change. It's the exact same every single week. And that's how you develop consistency in what you're trying to do. And that's worked well for us. So we get ready for the opponent, but we really spend more time about how we play. And again, how we play is based on how we prepare, the effort, the focus, the attention to detail, those type of things. And that's what we focus on week in and week out.
All right, Dabo Swinney from his presser today. And listen, we'll hear more from him later in the week about Furman. Furman's got 15 starters back from an FCS playoff team. They don't match up, of course, player for player with Clemson, but their scheme, especially on the offensive side, can give teams problems. Remember last year, early in their season, they played NC State in Raleigh, and that was a close game. And, that was supposed to be a superior NC State team last year with those great defensive linemen. And Furman, in the third quarter, scored. They scored at the very end of the first half. That was a close game midway through the third quarter. And the problem you face when you're the big team is the longer you let the smaller team hang around, the more confidence they get, the more of a problem it becomes. Now, I'm by no means suggesting that Clemson will have a problem or will lose this game or anything like that. But what I am suggesting is that Furman will be able to do some good things on offense, and defensively, they returned 10 starters off of a pretty good defensive team. This will be a good little, how can I word this so it makes sense? This is not a test for Furman, but I think we'll get an idea when they match up against a super talented team like Clemson, kind of if Furman has the personnel to make a deep run in the Southern Conference and a deep run nationally playoffs.
I don't think this is going to be as close as, say, when South Carolina played Wofford last year. I think that Wofford made much more of that game against South Carolina than I think we thought going in. I do think that Clemson will be able to control this game. I think they'll be able to control the line of scrimmage because they have about a 20-pound advantage when it comes to their defensive tackles going on their interior and the agility of the two defensive ends in Cleveland Farrell and Austin Bryant. And I also believe that the physical nature of Clemson's receiving core, guys like T. Higgins on the outside, even someone like Justin Ross, they're going up against corners who are 180 pounds. I think that the T. Higgins will be able to get separation. I think Hunter Renfrow will be able to do the same. So I think Clemson will be able to have its way in those two areas. But I also think that Furman will keep this closer than I think Clemson would like. It will not be like the game we saw to open last year, where that Kent State team that came into Clemson might have been the worst FBS level team that I've seen play in a Division I game.
Well, the thing, when you look at Clemson, though, they are ultra aggressive offensively when they got an inferior opponent. They will. Because a lot of people were thinking about Trevor Lawrence, but forgetting that Kelly Bryant, this is his second year as a starter. I think they're going to pull some reins off and say, Kelly, everybody thinks you can't throw deep. Watch this. I think he and T. Higgins are going to pitch and catch very early in that football game to show Clemson, no matter who's in the football game throwing, we're going deep against.
What was that first or second touchdown against Kent State? Was that long jump ball to Deion Kane?
Yeah, you're right. And, I think Pro has a really good memory on this. If you've been following Clemson football during this heyday run it's having right now, they like to score early against anybody if they can. And what they'll come out and do, and I will predict this right now, they're going to come out and run a couple of little conservative plays, maybe try and suck in the defense a little bit. And then they're going to try and strike deep, assuming they have decent field position to start their opening possession. I think they'll try and hit them deep quickly and turn the momentum in their favor as quickly as possible. All right, we'll hear from Muschamp coming up.
Welcome back to Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. We're brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. Whether it's low rates or high rewards using select Founders credit cards on clothes, school supplies, a new computer, even college tuition will help prepare your kids for their first day of school. Apply online at foundersfcu.com/visa. Before we get to Will Muschamp's opening statement, Corn, I know that Ray Tanner yesterday when he was on with us alluded to some changes at Williams-Brice Stadium. We have those at least in front of us now from a release that came out this morning from the Gamecock Athletic Department. As you know, and as people inside the media know, and those who at least get more of inside access to Williams-Brice Stadium, the captains are displayed in the Hall of Captains inside the guts, if you will, of Williams-Brice Stadium. Well, now they are taking
I prefer calling it the bowels of Williams-Brice Stadium.
I don't like that word.
Well, guts, bowels, whatever.
Well, they're taking they're exhuming the bowels and they're turning a Hall of Captains into a Wall of Captains over by where the cockabooses are, to at least allow fans and the general public to see a little bit of Gamecock football history. And they're also going to do a rotating leadership wall that will highlight three of the captains, spotlighting them periodically to at least allow that particular part of Gamecock history to be showcased, which is
that'll
cool.
Be kind of sad for me because, you walk down that hall to go to the interviews, and every time I walk down that hall, I pause and I talk to the ghost of 1895 Captain J.J. McLaughlin. So I will miss my conversations with him.
I talked to C.H. McLaurin personally, but that's just me. Yeah. There's also, for those, I know that there was a big point of contention about the East End and kind of the concessions there. They've put 30 more points of purchase inside the stadium overall and really concentrated on that east side of the stadium. They had hot dog carts, and also they have boosted the in-game cell service. You know how they have those little temporary cell towers. They're doing more of that around the stadiums. Those who have AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile will notice an increased cell phone connectivity, which will be a good thing. But, of course, most people care about what happens on the football field, and that's where South Carolina takes on Coastal Carolina at high noon on the SEC Network, and head coach Will Muschamp addressed the media thusly.
Great to get season started and great to be at Williams-Brice Stadium for our opener going into our third season. Previous 2 years have been on the road, so we're excited to be here at noon on September 1st against Coastal Carolina. I think we've made some progress through training camp. We'll certainly find out on Saturday. There's no redos. Can't blow the whistle and start it over again, on game day. And our guys understand that. We've had good preparation to this point. Obviously have a Wednesday and Thursday practice and a Friday walkthrough and tee it off on Monday at noon. Cannot wait to get in front of our fan base. Excited about that as well. Coastal Carolina, Joe Moglia, last year had a health issue, so it's good to get him back on the sideline. He's done a really good job there at Coastal, and Jamie Chadwell, their offensive coordinator, did a fantastic job at Charleston Southern. Presents a lot of issues for you defensively, as far as the spread run game, some option principles, the two receivers that can really run on the outside, 5 returning starters on the offensive line. Anderson, the quarterback's a dual threat guy that can do both things for him. Marvin Sanders, their defensive coordinator, is new. Was with Bo Pelini at Nebraska, and one of the better defenses in college football at that time. Again, when you're preparing for a new coordinator, you got to get ready for it all. You have no idea, maybe some of the things that they might try and do. So we need to be able to adjust and adapt during the game, and we certainly will be able to do that. But Marvin's a really good football coach, and we'll do a good job. We need to be well prepared for Saturday, and I like our preparation to this point, but obviously we're not there yet. Injury-wise, just to kind of update you, Wyatt Campbell still has about a month before he will be cleared. Chad Terrell, we think, will be cleared at the end of September, so it'd be good to get Chad back. Jesus Gibbs got about 3 more weeks. Levante Valentine, we think, has got about another week and a half. Chavis Dawkins would probably be doubtful for Saturday at this point based on his ankle. I think we'll get him back certainly in another week. Tyreek Johnson and Caleb Kinlaw are obviously out for the season. Very disappointing news from last week. Taven Jackson was forced to give up football. He has a sickle cell trait, and based on how it was explained to me, you have certain percentages of the sickle cell trait, and unfortunately his is very high. And after meeting with his family, Dr. Guy, Clint Haggard, our medical staff, to hear all of the different avenues we traveled down as far as seeing experts that try to find a solution to help Taven. This was the best answer, and it's very unfortunate. He's an extremely talented young man as a player, but even more so off the field, extremely bright. He'll be successful in whatever he does. That's always a very difficult conversation to have. But his life is a lot more important than football. That's for sure. So hate that for him and us moving forward. But certainly here to support him. He's going to stay here at the university and get his degree and help our football program in some form.
And while that news on Tavin Jackson is disappointing, Corn, I think that you can echo this not just for South Carolina and Clemson, but you're never going to get through a fall camp completely unscathed, but they are both about as unscathed as you could like going into game one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the game could.
I guess they
lost for the season when you throw Jackson in there as well. So that was, that's unfortunate. I really hate it for Tavin Jackson as well, because I think he was a guy that they believed could help them back in the secondary.
He changed like two positions, didn't he?
Deal with
he changed positions twice.
I think he came in as a corner, and then they moved him to safety. Yeah. And it's and also the thing is to be dealing with what can be a life-threatening disease as well. I mean, they did the right thing stepping in here and getting this thing evaluated and dealt with as quickly as possible.
And the thing that I think really stands out for South Carolina, and I think I've kind of hit this point home, they are set with the all-22, and the only thing that has me concerned is you got 8 true freshmen on the 2 deep. And a lot of that is at the offensive line, the 3 offensive linemen or 4 offensive linemen that they think that are going to be the contributors off the bench there. But you got J.C. Horn, you've got J.J. Ngbara, you got Rick Sandage, Rosendo Lewis as a backup at linebacker. What happens when those guys get on the field for the first time? What happens when they face adversity? And number 3, how much will they push the guys in front of them?
Yeah, that's why the team leadership, as far as the upperclassmen are concerned, are so important. But I think all football fans in college football, after seeing all those freshmen do things in the national championship game, it almost you figure out that when freshmen come on campus now, it's no orientation period other than going to class and learning your position. Because if you're a freshman, I don't care if you're at a power or the weakest team in FBS or FCS, you're going to play.
And the thing that struck me, Corn, was when Muschamp talked about Enigbare being just slightly ahead of Sandage. It was because of the fact that he came in early, though we talk about guys like Van and Horn, guys who were not here early, who cracked the 2 deep anyway, and Horn gets a starting nickel spot over a guy like Israel Mukwamu, who, while he's playing outside, also got here a semester earlier, and Horn cracks the depth over him.
Yeah, I mean, well, when you're talking about defensive linemen versus, say, corners and receivers, 2 different animals, I think coaches will tell you that the second most difficult position probably to teach a young guy is defensive line after offensive line. You don't usually see true freshmen crack the lineup in either one of those spots unless they're just super, like Mitch Hyatt came in as a true freshman at Clemson, and he has started from day one. Well, I mean, he was just a super prepared guy with a big body and the talent to be able to hang in there at left tackle all these years. Wide receivers, cornerbacks, guys that are real the skill position guys, I think they can come in, learn their position quicker. And depending on the situation and what the need is, let's face it, South Carolina had a real need at corner for somebody good from the freshman class to come in and play right away, and 2 of them are going to get that chance. And then you look at Josh Van. Well, you make room for a talent like that. This is a guy that is just is superb and is probably going to be a star in his career at South Carolina right after Deebo Samuels leaves. I think they'll have a guy to kind of step in and be a very similar type of offensive threat.
The one other thing that we came out of the presser from Muschamp, still no update on either Josh Belk or Jamel Cook's immediate eligibility. We know Muschamp said at the latter part of the week that they do expect some resolution before the start of the season. Well, the start of the season's less than a week away, so it might happen in the next couple of days.
When it comes to South Carolina, the NCAA always has the motto, with all deliberate speed.
What's the rush?
More from Dabo coming up next.
These guys, they never sleep. Check them out on the web at SportsTalkSC.com. Now, more of Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Corn's recruiting report upcoming, and also the Limestone Palmetto Pride Pigskin Preview Tour Spotted is brought to you by Palmetto Pride. Did you know throwing out a plastic bottle out of your car window could cost you $100? Don't get caught trashing South Carolina by law enforcement. Wait until you reach your destination and toss your trash in the proper bin. Learn more about revised South Carolina litter laws by visiting palmettopride.org. And Corn, as Dabo Swinney spoke today, the $64,000 question was about one particular position after we got the depth on Monday.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, people still wanted to hear from him about the quarterback position, even though we knew on Monday Kelly Bryant was going to be the guy. He had not had a chance to talk publicly about it, his rationale behind he and Tony Elliott and Jeff Scott deciding Brandon Streeter deciding on Kelly Bryant remaining as a starting quarterback. You know, he never lost a starting quarterback job. He was a starter last year. He carried it to the offseason, through the spring, and through camp, and now he'll be the starter going into the Furman game. And so once he got through the opening part of his comments today at his press conference, he got down to the nitty-gritty about what he saw in Bryant in camp that led all of them to stick with him.
He's had a tremendous year of prep since January. And, you know, I've had a front row seat, no idea how it was going to play out. Obviously, you bring a guy in here like Trevor Lawrence, who is really off the charts from a talent standpoint, but you don't ever know until you start coaching a guy, how's that going to translate. You know, guys can be really, really talented in high school, but sometimes it takes a little longer to translate to this level. You know, there's a lot going on. And but he demonstrated this spring that he's one of those unique guys that he has this unique talent, but he also demonstrated that, man, he was absorbing it very well. And he wasn't overwhelmed, but still made a lot of mistakes. I mean, it's just a lot. And Kelly was the clear winner in spring as far as, okay, well, he's the starter. But it was also pretty obvious that, man, you got a guy right here that is, we think he's going to get better. And that's kind of how we went into camp. And that's what we saw. But I'll tell you, I'm really, really proud of Kelly because, man, you got to have thick skin when you play quarterback. And you got so many people with their opinions and agendas and, you know, they don't watch practice. They don't watch one tape. They don't, even when they do, they don't know what they're watching. I don't know what the people are being asked to do. They don't know who's right and who's wrong. And so, you know, I've just been really proud of him because how he's handled it. It's been really a breath of fresh air because he's just been locked in on himself. He's had an awesome camp, 3 scrimmages. I think he was 23 of 32, 300 and something yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. And just did a tremendous job. Played with, you know, both groups. Didn't always get the first team reps. Those reps were split all camp. And so, you know, he just came out on top from a grade standpoint. And that's, you know, at some point you gotta go play. And so that's where we are. The flip side of that is Trevor did exactly what we thought he would do. And man, he came back more in control of what was going on, a better knowledge base, and as he should. He'd already been through installation, and really, and physically, just I mean, he's a very gifted guy. I mean, he's 6'6", 216 pounds, but just mentally in a really good place. And the game has slowed down for him. He's demonstrated a really good command, and he had a great camp. But you know, Kelly was the most consistent. And that's just where we are. So Kelly's earned the opportunity to go start because somebody's got to run out there first. He's earned the opportunity to do that. And nobody's giving him anything. He's earned it. But Trevor has earned the opportunity to play and to continue to compete. So that's where we are, and I'm excited about it. And like the best case scenario is they both play well.
He went on to say that kind of warning fans and others out there, don't pick favorites between Bryant and Lawrence. He said when they're both out there playing, they're representing Clemson. They're both Clemson Tigers. So he's kind of telling the fans, hey, man, you people kind of chill out there when it comes to wanting to cheer on the super comes in when he gets his chance. Remember, listen, Kelly Bryant last year was 45th in the country in total offense with 3,467 yards. That's not bad for a guy that very little really was expected of when he went into last season. So he's a proven commodity. He probably was safer with the football in camp, I would imagine. And he continues to befuddle the experts who think that he's going to be surpassed by somebody.
Well, I think, too, we got the report yesterday from Matt Connolly that, Kelly was thinking about transferring. And I think that from that standpoint, you almost had to make Kelly the starter, because if he transferred, then you only got 2 scholarship quarterbacks left. And I'm not saying that he would have transferred if he wasn't named the starter, but, he had the ability to transfer somewhere right away and be a graduate transfer and play right away. Trevor's not going to transfer away if he doesn't get the job this year. He can certainly apply for the job next year and of course, fight that out with Chase Bryce and Tyson Pumachan. But in my mind, Corn, this is the most defensible move, and this is the move that is the best for the present and future of Clemson's program.
I've always thought that the character of a quarterback, including his talent, equals success. And when I saw Kelly Bryant came in, and Corner's right, a lot of people didn't expect a lot from him, and you're replacing arguably the best quarterback in the school's history. And he played it the way he knew how to play it. He wasn't trying to be Deshaun Watson. He knew he wasn't. He played with his own character. And let's face it, he carried Clemson to a place where a lot of prognosticators said Clemson would not go. And that is, after Deshaun Watson, they're right back in the thick of things in the playoff.
Boy, are they ever, and set again for the long run. I was just sitting here thinking, with this new rule, with the 4-game redshirt rule that all coaches are going to have to deal with as they go through the season, deciding, okay, do I want to play this guy in a 5th game or do I want to try and hold him? Let's just say Kelly Bryant goes out and sets the world on fire, okay? And Clemson is, just rolling, and you never really get a chance to put Trevor Lawrence in a game where it's meaningful. Do you play him in 5 games and burn his redshirt year? Is that maybe a promise you've made to him not to hold him back so he can progress? I mean, that is a nice luxury to have if you're able to pull that off.
I just think, Corn, you have him for 3 years by hook or crook. You maximize as much as you possibly can out of him, and I think the way that you do that is get him as much meaningful game action. By meaningful, I mean not mop-up game action as possible this year, so that he's prepared to take the reins fully next year.
Think in terms of last year. If Kelly Bryant gets dinged up, you got the hair to come in, because so you got to get him prepared. Yeah. Because the way Kelly plays, there is a chance he can get dinged up because, as I said before, it seems like he's the best power back that Clemson has when he comes out of the pocket.
Well, at least at this point now, he has at least a number 2 that he can go to, that it's a proven number 2, instead of, say, I don't know, thinking between Zara Cooper and Hunter Johnson. There's at least a definitive number 2 there, which I like, because in my mind, he should have gone to Hunter Johnson in the Syracuse game, and I will say that until the end of the world instead of Zara Cooper. But that's just my own little thing with Dabo.
Right. Real quick, let me squeeze in some recruiting notes before the top of the hour. No news from defensive lineman Jaquez Sorrells of Winter Park, Florida, regarding a decision. He did tweet out today that he's going to go to the Alabama game in Orlando Saturday. Alabama is one of his schools. Clemson's in good shape in basketball with 6'4" Alex Hemingway of Newburgh, Indiana. He is an extraordinarily good shooter, averaged 21 points per game. He will take an official to Clemson. His dad and Brad Brownell grew up together in Evansville, Indiana, and they're good friends. Xavier Butler, Nebraska, Northern Kentucky, Evansville, Valpo, some others on his list. And USC target 6'7" Quincy Guerrero has sent officials to Oregon, Syracuse, and Illinois for now. When we come back, we'll visit with the Saints here at Limestone.
caving in and breaking down.
Round 2 of Sports Talk up next with your hosts Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
We are back, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network on this Tuesday night. It's a Talking Tuesday. Been talking Gamecocks and Tigers. Now we're going to talk Saints as we have made our 11th stop tonight on the Palmetto Pigskin Tour. We're at lovely Limestone College in beautiful Gaffney, South Carolina, a town that is just eaten up with football and great history, and Limestone hoping to continue to add to that history going into year 5 of its football program. We are joined by the first-year head coach, Tony Iruli, who replaced Coach Furry, who left to go to the Chicago Bears. It's great to see you, sir.
Well, I like I said, I really appreciate the opportunity for y'all coming by here and visiting Limestone. So I'm glad to be here and visiting with you.
It's a pleasure. It was a cooker out there today. Could you get the guys into the practice field?
Yeah, I mean, in fact, we pushed back practice about an hour just to kind of, we don't want our guys to get totally exhausted where they start losing their concentration. So we usually start practice at 4. We moved back to about 5:15. And before we went on the field, I challenged them. I said, listen, we can moan and groan about the weather and we can take a step back, or we can get focused and take care of all of our responsibilities, get a little bit better today to prepare for us for Gardner-Webb. And I really was satisfied with our practice throughout the day.
Well, it's a growing program.
Sure.
It's still in its infancy.
Right.
I think Coach Furry came in and did a really nice job
Absolutely.
of building this thing a little bit and getting it going. And do you feel like you're inheriting a pretty good group of players?
Well, without a doubt. I mean, I feel like Coach Furry really laid a really good foundation here. And all I'm basically doing is just continuing what he's doing here. I mean, obviously he had a great opportunity going with the Chicago Bears. And I believe what the program is looking for is stability in the head coaching position. I'm the 3rd head football coach going into the 5th season.
Yeah.
And, there's no question there's great talent here. We got outstanding assistant coaches, but what the program needs is stability at the head coaching position. And that's what I'm able to offer. I just hit 60 years old. There aren't very many 60-year-old being named as a head coach at any level.
Yeah.
And so I know the fact that if we have great success here, this is where Tony Iruli is going to finish his career at.
So I got to give you some advice. Okay.
Yes.
Be like me. Be age neutral. Don't claim an age.
Don't claim an age.
No
okay.
number.
I'm 33 then.
Okay. There's no number associated with us. Okay.
Excellent. Good call.
We're just continuing on. You came from Carson Newman,
right?
A great football program for decades
Sure.
under Ken Sparks, one of the best Division II programs in the country. What did you learn coaching under him, and what principles are you bringing from there to here?
Well, really, I mean, I'm so what's the right word? I'm just so grateful for Carson Newman, Ken Sparks, Mike Turner, who's now the current head football coach. I was the head football coach at Maryville College for 9 years, and then all of a sudden I'm looking for a job. Mm-hmm. And Ken Sparks called me up a day after I left Maryville College, and he really influenced me in so many different ways. First of all, I thought I became a better coach on and off the field, but most importantly, he really renewed my Christian faith. And when we were at Carson Newman, whenever we had to make a decision on what to do, Coach Sparks would say, are we going to do it man's way or God's way? And so every time we based a major decision like we're doing here, we're trying to do things the right way in line with our Christian faith. And so that's what influenced me. And also he gave me an opportunity to be out there to get another chance to be a head football coach again. Like a lot of former head coaches, Bill Belichick, for a good example. I mean, he was the head coach of the Cleveland Browns. Mm-hmm. Didn't do very well there. All of a sudden he's looking for a job, and look what he's done since going with the Patriots. And I feel like if I had a second opportunity to become a head coach, I would learn from being around Coach Sparks and Carson Newman. I would take what I did well at Maryville College and things I needed to improve on. And so therefore I feel like I'm a more well-rounded head coach to be able to become the head coach at Limestone.
My memory of Carson Newman, great running the football.
Yes.
Are you bringing that offensive philosophy here?
Well, Carson Newman runs the split back veer offense. And so not really, because, first of all, it's hard to find coaches that, college level that runs the veer offense. Mm-hmm. In fact, it's kind of funny. When I was offered the job here at Limestone, the next night I had a dang on try to calm the players down before I was even named, because they were really worried I was going to be running the veer offense. And so, we got a 6'7" quarterback who's a drop back quarterback. You say, oh, we're changing offenses. Yeah. And so what we're doing basically on offense is last year, Mike Fury's offense was a 4-wide offense. And just threw the ball around quite a bit, had a good running attack. I'm still a little bit old-fashioned in terms. I like to see a tight end in there. We got 3 tight ends that are both they're all about 6'7" tall. We got the returning freshman of the year in Jacoya, being a great running back for us. He rushed for 950 yards, and we got 2 or 3 really good running backs. So we're going to expand our offense. We're building from what we did last year. Defensively, we were a 50 slant and angle team. Now my background as a defensive coordinator for 26 years has been a 4-3 defense, and that's basically what we're going to run.
Got a former Gamecock in here running your offense.
Yes, Brian Turk. I mean, he's. I tell you, I think the best thing I did after being named head football coach was usually when a new coach comes in, he makes changes on his staff.
Sure.
I mean, he gets rid of all the coaches, or keeps 1, maybe 2, because he wants people around him that he feels comfortable with. But I felt like during the interview process, I didn't hear one negative thing about the current assistant coaches, and they were all impressed me. And they did a great job recruiting. I did something very unusual that you don't see is I kept every single member of the assistant coaches. A couple left because they're tied with Coach Fury, and I've added 2 more coaches who are a little bit older, who's got experience. And so, but Brian Turk's being our offensive coordinator. I love what he's doing offensively. He has great communication skills with our offensive players, and so I'm expecting some great things from our offense.
To that end, Coach, and you mentioned Patton and his sensational return coming, obviously, for Limestone. How do you work to get him the ball in more creative ways to make sure that he gets it in space?
Well, we want to make sure is by the different formations that we're doing. We're going to try to outflank our defenses by jumping in several different type of offense formations. But Jacoya, he's very talented. So we can spread the defense out, and we can isolate him on running the inside zones. Using the H-back, we can bring him the H-back around, run the split zones. We can get him to the outside. So and he's very talented. And so we expect him to have another good season. What I like about him more than anything else is that he's one of our leaders of our team. A lot of times a freshman will have great success as a freshman, and all of a sudden it kind of gets to his head a little bit. That's not him. I mean, he's a great leader, very humble guy. I mean, when you look at the 4 or 5 hardest workers on our team, he's one of them. And so he's really made the transition well from being a freshman, outstanding player, to now sort of like a seasoned veteran with leadership skills.
Coach, you said the 4 wide out used by the previous coach. You're a little old fashioned. You like to see a big, preferably tall tight end in there. What's the adjustment like for an offensive lineman that's blocked for one scheme and then going with the scheme with the tight end?
Well, it really doesn't change the scheme because, you still, regardless, we're a spread offense. So we run the stretch blocking schemes, the zone blocking schemes, and that's still the same. But by having a tight end, we can use him as an H-back, and he can go ahead and cut across blocking from the backside. Or, we'll have 2 tight ends in there. And we use the second tight end as an H-back, so we're able to run more power stuff. So really, I think offensively, with what we're doing formation-wise, we're able to run several more type of offensive plays compared to what we did last year, where we're mostly inside-outside zones.
Real quick, got about 30 seconds.
Sure.
You and Dabo Sweeney, umpiring buddies?
Yeah, many years ago, I was the defense coordinator at Samford University under Terry Bowden. Terry Bowden was our head coach. I was defense coordinator. Our quarterback coach was a guy named Jimbo Fisher. And but as defense coordinator, I was wife, 3 kids, making a great salary of $18,000 a year. So on the side, I had a umpire Little League games in Pelham, Alabama. Well, for 2 years, my assistant was a guy named Dabo Sweeney. And so we used to travel all the place to umpire games. And, he's a great friend. I really appreciate giving a good recommendation to Mike Serino for the job here. And so every time we see each other, we kind of laugh about it. We say, it's kind of funny, 2 guys from Pelham, Alabama are head coaches now. It's in South Carolina. We didn't think that. And I said, obviously, you've got a better agent than me because, he's got a pretty good salary. But I'm just really proud of him. And the thing about Dabo is this.
I got to hit a quick break.
Good.
Come right back.
Okay, great.
Sports Talk is the sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
Well, we like Coach Iruli so much we had to hold him over for because he is Italian, and we know how Italians like to eat and talk, right?
And that's right. You ask me one question, I go for about 10 minutes.
Yeah, I want you to finish your comment on Dabo Sweeney and y'all's relationship.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you, if there's a model of what a college head football coach should be like, it's Dabo Sweeney. I mean, the guy is, he's no different than he was coming out of college and being a young assistant coach over at Alabama. I mean, he's true to the heart. He absolutely cares for his players. And what you see is what you get. I mean, there's a lot of times, I'm not going to name names, there's coaches that when the camera's on, they're one way, but when the cameras are off, they're a whole different way.
Yeah.
Dabo is about as good as a man that you've ever be around. And like I said, I've learned so much by him, and obviously, he's the success he's had at Clemson. But I just want to just say that if there's a model for a young coach to take after, you should look at Dabo Swinney, because that's a great example.
One more thing.
Sure.
Of course, you're a pretty famous guy in your own right, but you got a pretty famous cousin.
Yeah. My cousin Joe Girardi, who's the manager of the Yankees.
Yes, sir.
For about 10, 11 years, had a great baseball career. He's sitting this year out, but I expect Joe to be out there managing somewhere next season.
Yeah.
And just like I said, he would kid me at times that when we were younger, we wouldn't let him in to some baseball games because he's a little bit younger than us and all that. And so when he became the manager of the Yankees, I asked him for tickets. He says, "Well, you remember when you wouldn't let me play? No, I got a choice. Give you tickets behind the dugout or in the upper level row ZZ." And I said, I was kind of hoping you weren't remembering that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But we're really proud of Joe, and he's a great guy, and he'll be managing next year. So.
Oh, listen, he's proven himself as a manager.
Certainly.
He was manager of the year with the Marlins. Won a ring with the Yankees as a player and as a manager. So
yeah,
he's proven himself.
Yeah, and I understand why he decided to walk away for a year for the Yankees. I mean, the manager of the Yankees is such a high profile job, and so much pressures come from a different way. And he did the best thing that I think he do is just kind of catch his breath, kind of get back with his family. And he's got some boys that are going through summer baseball. And now I think really believe next year he'll be out there again.
Hey, good luck this season. Thank you for joining us. A pleasure.
Might see us again.
Oh, we will. We look forward to talking to you
Excellent.
again.
All right.
Thank you.
Sure.
Tony Iruli, the head football coach here at Limestone. We continue with our Palmetto Pigskin Tour now. We have a couple of Saints joining us here in our broadcast position. Jerkiah Patton, running back from Charlotte, who's a sophomore, had nearly 1,000 yards last year, 907 yards and 8 touchdowns. And linebacker Dalton Yates from Pickens High School, though he didn't grow up in Pickens, near Pickens. He's a senior, 26 tackles last year, 5.5 for loss, and 4 sacks. It's great having you guys with us. And Jerkiah, let's start with you. Coach was saying he coached against you last year. You ate up his deal. He coordinates the defense at Carson Newman, and you had a big game against him. What's that all about?
Well, I mean, we like to joke about it a lot, but I mean, now he's my head coach, so I know he's happy about that, and I'm happy about that also.
Yeah.
So now I'm just ready to play against Carson Newman again and get a win just for him because I know how bad he wants that game. So.
How's the transition been to him as a head coach?
I mean, it was he's a very different coach from the last coach we had, so it took a little bit of getting used to. But over time, we've got used to it and the way he likes to run things. So now everybody's under him and ready to go.
Is he more demanding? Is he
Yes,
funnier? How would you describe him?
I said a little bit of both because he's kind of older, so he like things ran his way. But I mean, it's a way. I really like the way he runs things around here because he know what he's talking about and he know what he's saying. So it's easy to connect with him and do what he asks for.
Dalton having a head coach who is a defensive coordinator. So, even though he's over everybody and he's keeping an eye on the offense, his baby's the defense.
Yeah.
What do you like about his defensive style?
Coming from last year, the past 2 years, we've ran a slanting 3-4, but this year we're changing up, running a 4-3. And that's one thing that a lot of the guys like. Personnel-wise, we feel like we have a little bit more better personnel for the 4-3 defense. And that's one thing I've always liked to growing up. I've always enjoyed watching 4-3 defenses. And one thing too, I mean, he's always over there around us defensively when we're doing drills and stuff. He's with the backers and the D-line. He's always giving us pointers. Like if Coach Kelly, our DC, if he can't see something or he's watching somebody else, he can be there right there with us saying, hey, you need to take a lateral step here. You need to do this. You need to do that. So, I mean, it's beneficial for us. I mean, defensively, I really enjoy it since he's a head coach and he's a defensive guy as well.
Does he seem to have an expertise in one particular area or one particular position of the defense?
I would say probably linebackers. He's constantly with us. The Sam linebackers, including that's what position I play, but he's constantly working with us, and we have a defense. What's his defense that we run? And so, yeah, I mean, I'd say linebackers and D-line. Those are his two things right there. Those are his bread and butter.
The change from the slanting 50 front to the 4-3 you guys are going to run this year, how does that impact you?
Well, it impacts me in a lot of different ways. Last year with our slanting 50 front, you were having to fill gaps behind D linemen, and I mean it was a simple but yet very complicated type of defense to adjust. Now, I mean, we have a lot to learn, but it's this is your job. This is where you go. This is what you do. And that's one thing I like. And it frees us up. One thing, too, for us last year, we didn't really get to blitz a lot. We blitzed a lot of outside backers. But overall, we didn't blitz really, but just them two positions. This year, we can come from all over the field. We got people coming from everywhere. So that's one thing I enjoy. I love bringing the house. I love bringing blitzes. I love seeing big plays.
4 sacks for you last year.
Yes,
so you think you can increase that a good bit?
Oh, yes, sir. Yeah. I plan to do so. Yeah. That's one thing that we've been working on is allowing me to get a few more pressures this year. That's one thing we're going to work on.
Now, Jacoya, going back to the offense, you got a big, tall quarterback, 6'7", a guy that played at Marshall before he came here. Let's talk about the balance between the run and the pass with Coach Turk, the offensive coordinator. How do you see things working with him calling the plays and trying to mesh the run and the pass with you guys?
Well, I mean, last year Coach Turk was very involved with the offense also. So this year it's like we just picked up where we left off from last year. And if the pass working, then we're going to pass it. If the run's working, we're going to run it. So he's very balanced, but probably we're going to lean on what's working at the time. But you know me, I'm a running back, so I like to run the ball. I tell them, let's run it, Coach.
Yeah.
How many times a game would you like to tote the mail?
However many times it takes.
Yeah.
I want the ball. But if I have to, I'll pick up a block for my quarterback if we're passing the ball.
Do you feel like you get stronger as the game goes on, carrying the football?
Oh, yes, sir, of course. I tell them, if you need to give me the ball 50 times a game, then give me the ball 50 times a game. Yes, sir.
Yeah. What's your career high in carrying the football in terms of the total number? Do you know?
He's out in college.
Yeah.
I think it was 27 times.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the game we went to overtime against Tusculum last year.
Gotcha. Lining up against these guys, Dalton, from a defensive standpoint, looking at the offense, how good do they look to you?
Oh, they look real good. I mean, like you said, they've picked up last 3 games we played. They picked up right where they left off at. I mean, offensively, our coaching staff, they've all came back. Like you said, we've got a quarterback and a running back both, and I'm very confident in. Our O-line looks great, probably the best I've seen it in the past 4 years I've been here. Offensively, we're looking real good this year. I think so.
So you came here after year 1.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So, I mean, you're both really a part of the building process, but you in particular because you're older. So where are you today as a team compared to where you were when you got here? You're starting to laugh.
Yeah, it's a lot. Them first year or so, it was different. But and then Coach Furry came in, of course, and he was the one who started laid the foundation. And now Coach Ireles came, and he's just adding on to that. We're just going to keep building. We're going to keep rolling from there. But it's a big change. I mean, we've got a lot of guys. I mean, we had talent back then, but it wasn't disciplined. But now things have changed, and we're just going to keep building on top of that.
Hey, you got one guy who's trying to make an NFL team, the wide receiver Smith, I think it is. Yeah, who came to Columbia's pro day, USC's pro day, and tore it up speed-wise. So
yes,
when you were at Pickens, did you ever come and play at the reservation?
No, we didn't actually. No, sir. No.
Yeah. So what's it? I mean, growing up in the upstate, you've heard all the talk about Gaffney football and the reservation over the years. What's it like playing your college career there?
Oh, I love it. I enjoy it. I'd say when you said Corey, we probably have one of the nicest stadiums in the SAC playing at Gaffney High School. Sure enough.
We got a lot of fan support also.
Fans come out and support you guys well?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Jacoya, what goals have you set for yourself this year? What can you accomplish, you think?
Well,
given the ball enough times.
Well, actually, my coach asked me this last week. I told him I wanted 1,500 rushing yards, and I wanted 15 touchdowns at least.
Oh,
and I want the team to win at least 9 games this year. That's the goal.
I think they sign up for that right now.
Yes, sir.
Guys, thanks for joining us. Good luck this season. Hope it goes great. Stay healthy, and we look forward to following you throughout the campaign.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much. All right, Dalton Yates and Jacoya Patton here with the Limestone Saints in Gaffney. We'll be back with Darlington, Kerry Tharp coming up in a moment.
Again, our thanks to the folks at Limestone for continuing our Palmetto Pigskin Preview Tour, which is brought to you by Palmetto Pride. Did you know throwing a plastic bottle out of your car window can cost you $100? Don't get caught crashing South Carolina by law enforcement. Wait until you reach your destination. Toss your trash in the proper bin. Learn more about revised South Carolina litter laws by visiting palmettopride.org. And Corn, the moment is here. Darlington Raceway certainly is going to be the site of some real interesting racing this upcoming weekend at the Lady in Black.
Absolutely. All the new seats have been put in place. The new cup holders have been wiped down and shined up for those big old beer cups. We've got the place waxed down and swabbed up and shining awfully pretty, I'm sure, on Tuesday night, getting ready for all the action later this week. We welcome in Carrie Tharp, the president of Darlington. Okay, the spotlight is on you guys. The eyes of America will be on Darlington this week. Well, many eyes. There'll be a couple of eyes still on some college football, but many eyes will be on Darlington this weekend.
Well, I'll tell you, Phil, I may have to bring you over here early and do our sales pitch for us, but you're exactly right. The place is really starting to take shape. It's looking great. I just really toured the property here for a couple hours this afternoon. It's really starting to sing, and the new seats are going to be quite an addition. I think the drivers are going to, come out and having that week off in the Cup Series are going to be ready for competition, and I think our fans are going to love what we have in store for them with the 7 decades of NASCAR. So you put all that combination together, I think we're in store for a pretty good weekend. I really do.
Absolutely. And you announced today that part of the festivities in the pre-race and all that kind of stuff, you're going to have a bunch of former drivers or owners and some vintage Camaros involved in the pre-race festivities.
Yeah, we are. It's 7 decades of NASCAR, and Chevy is our official pace car this year for the Bojangles Southern 500. So this idea actually came with Chevrolet last year when we were at the Cup banquet in Las Vegas, and we were having dinner with those folks. I said, how cool would it be to have 7 different styles of Camaro pacing the field for our race next year? And they loved the idea. So we've been tracking down, and these will be street cars. So there's 7 generations of the Camaro, okay, starting in the 60s and coming all the way up to pretty much present time. And so we've located 7 vintage, street Camaros that are going to be driven. 2 of those are owned by Richard Childress and Rick Hendricks, 1969 Camaros that they'll be bringing to the racetrack. And so, we've got a great lineup of drivers driving those Camaros: Rick Hendrick, Richard Childress, Ray Evernham, Ricky Craven, Jeff Burton, Ward Burton, Ron Hornaday Jr. It's going to be a great thing for the fans. I know the drivers are looking forward to it, and so we just thought it'd be a great way to, kind of tie in the 7 decades of NASCAR.
All right, KT, Carrie Tharp with us here on Sports Talk. We talk about the Bojangles Southern 500 coming up this weekend. It's Labor Day. It's going to be a great, great night. I tell you what, folks, if you've never been to a NASCAR race, you got to go. If you got to go to one, you got to go to Darlington. It's big, but it's not too big, KT. I mean, the thing about Darlington is it doesn't overwhelm you like Daytona and Talladega, but it's big enough. It's a super speedway. Plus, you have all the crazy turns and the hard walls and all of that. What's the plans for the pregame in terms of national anthem again and some of the other entertainment? And also, will we have a flyover again this year?
Yes, Phil. We've got a great day planned on Sunday. We've got the Legends breakfast with about 10 or 12 of the Hall of Famers, and we've got some autograph sessions in the afternoon that'll take place over at the museum. We got Ricky Craven, Ward Burton, Ron Hornaday Jr. signing autographs. We've got driver appearances, across the property that are going to be really, really cool. The Clydesdales are going to be here, and the Clydesdales are actually already here. And so they're going to be taking some laps around the fan zone, and I expect to see you maybe out there on top of one of the Clydesdales. So I think that would be quite.
You don't want to break one of those Clydesdales, KT, man. That wouldn't be good.
I'll tell you what, those horses are treated exceptionally well. They get better treatment than you and I do. But it's going to be cool. We got Hanson, the popular pop group from the '90s, going to sing the national anthem, and they put on quite a rendition of the national anthem. We've got country music artist Clay Walker. Visit Myrtle Beach is sponsoring his pre-race concert. He's had several #1 hits in the country music world. Then we're going to have the start to command of the engines. It's coming from our Hall of Fame class. That the Hall of Famers are going to be there, and yes, we'll have a flyover. So it's going to be a spectacular day of activity, and culminating with the green flag of the 69th running of the Bojangles Southern 500.
Gary Tharp, Darlington president, joining us here on Sports Talk. You mentioned the 1 week layoff and the bye week that ensues here, KT. What do you think that does for the racing this week? Does that maybe ratchet up the competition? And who do you think, at least in your mind, this track suits best of those contending?
I think, Will, it does ratchet up the competition. I was talking to one of the drivers today, Kurt Busch. He called me about a couple things, and he said he can't wait to get over here and try to win that trophy. He's never won at Darlington. So I think people look at this as several different ways. There's certainly those drivers that need to win to get into the playoffs, and we get that. But there's also those drivers that maybe they have already clinched a spot in the playoffs, but maybe they haven't won here at Darlington yet. And, this is one of the crown jewels of NASCAR. It'd be one of the 4 majors if this was, if we were talking about golf. So a lot of people would like to add this to their resume. Kurt Busch is one of them. And then there's a lot of guys that have won here maybe once and would like to win again. So I think there's going to be a lot on the line. The juices are going to be flowing, and I think it's going to be it's a really spectacular race Sunday night.
Well, I want to know if we got any trailers parked on the infield already.
None in the infield yet, Tom. We won't let the infield folks come in until Thursday. But I tell you, there's a lot of property. There's a lot of property outside the racetrack that is being filled up with campers, motorhomes, tents. I was around the property a good bit this afternoon, and it's really starting to look like a race weekend, and the Monster Energy and Xfinity trucks are parked. A lot of the driver owner motorhomes have been parked, and it's right now it's starting to take shape and really starting to look like a NASCAR race weekend.
KT, what kind of tire is Goodyear going to bring? What do they think the tire will do under the current circumstances of the weather and the track?
Yeah, well, they had a tire test here back a couple months ago, and I think they decided on a right side tire that was a little bit different than last year. They wanted to get a little more tire wear, and you know how tires are such a factor here at Darlington, and so they like the tire that they're bringing here to Darlington, and it's one that will obviously safety is first and foremost, but it's one that's going to wear out some, and that plays a lot into the driver's hands and also into the strategy of the race. So talk to the Goodyear officials when we're here for the tire test, and they feel good about the tire that they're bringing here this week.
Corn, they're going to do something novel. It's going to be round, and it's going to have rubber on it.
Oh.
And it's going to say Goodyear on it, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, last thing, I know this is – do you still have time to sell a ticket or two before the green flag drops?
Absolutely. We're going to have a big crowd, but there are tickets available. Go to our website, darlingtonraceway.com, or dial up 866-459-7223. Still some seats available, but I can tell you right now, people are buying right now at a pretty good pace, and I would encourage fans right now to go ahead and get the tickets. And like you said, Phil, this is one to come to. Like you said, it's not overwhelming, but it is a really, really cool race to come to, and you got Monday to recover. So I don't see why there's any reason why people shouldn't come over to Darlington this weekend.
There's just something very cool about the transition from late afternoon to evening as that race is going on, KT. Hey, thank you, my friend. We'll see you this weekend.
Okay, thank you all.
All right, Kerry Tharp, president of Darlington. So looking forward to the 500 on top of all the football we're going to be taking in this weekend. We got a little more Muschamp coming your way after the break.
Now back to Sports Talk, South Carolina's most listened to sports talk show for more than 30 years.
Welcome back on Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. We will give you a little bit more of head coach Will Muschamp and a little bit of the fashion police from South Carolina's perspective. But before we lower the boom, we want to let you know that we are doing the Palmetto Pride Pigskin Preview with Limestone. And, of course, it's brought to you by Palmetto Pride. Did you know that throwing a plastic bottle out of your car window could cost you $100? Don't get caught trashing South Carolina by law enforcement. Wait until you reach your destination to toss your trash in the proper bin. Learn more about the revised South Carolina litter laws by visiting palmettopride.org. Before we lower the boom, Corn, in the interest of equal time, we continue our fine work in the podcast promotion business.
Absolutely. You know, we have our good friend Keith Alsep on, who does a podcast on the Gamecock side. And fair and balanced as we are, and we started that, not Fox News. We wanted to land somebody from the Clemson side, and sure enough, longtime friend and truly one of the best writers in our state, Larry Williams from Tiger Illustrated, is cranking up a podcast on Clemson. And so he's going to join us on Tuesday nights to highlight what he has on his podcast for Tiger fans to go take a listen to. Larry, how you doing?
Hey, doing great. Thanks for having me, Phil.
Our pleasure. So tell us what you got going on with your podcast.
Well, just started last week, and just yesterday. It's a twice weekly podcast, Mondays and Fridays. You figured you release it on Monday, the fans and everybody has the week to listen to it and digest it. And then on Fridays, as everybody's getting their cars and hitting the road to go to Death Valley or wherever, you can download it and listen to it or stream it, however, on the road. And so, just yesterday, we opened with a bang with Ben Boulware. That was a great interview. I can't take credit for it. He deserves all the credit for it. I just asked the questions, but that was a really entertaining 45, 50-minute listen. And just yesterday had Tim Beret. Sat down with him for about an hour to check in on how semi-retired life is going. I say semi-retired because even though he's no longer working as the SID for Clemson, he is quite busy in the golf world. NBC's treating him really well. I think he's Peter Jacobson's information man, particularly for college-related information. So that is a really cool gig for him. But anyway, Tim, we've dug into a lot of the last 10 years. Of course, this is the 10-year anniversary of Tommy Bowden's exit and Dabo Sweeney's entry as head coach. And so just a lot of fascinating sort of retrospective there.
That sounds great. Where can folks go to get your podcasts?
Well, it's available anywhere and everywhere. You can get a podcast. It's your typical sort of platforms. So that would be like iTunes is one of the big ones. If you're an Android person, you go to Google Play, or you can just search for it. You can also go to our website, tigerillustrated.com. We have it streamed there. You can go to my Twitter feed, Larry Williams TI. We tweet it out every time that a new one is released, and so you can stream it directly from our Twitter feed. And so I've tried to get every angle possible as far as all the different avenues that people use to listen. I'm sure there's some we haven't gotten to, but we're working on that. And just feel free to let us know if there are any platforms out there that we haven't covered yet.
Very good. What's the name of it?
The Clemson Dubcast.
The Clemson
Dubcast. Yes, Corn.
The Clemson Dubcast. Okay, gotcha. Dub for like W.
Yeah, well, just a play on the letter W. Yeah, that's the idea.
I got you, because they do nothing but win up there. Yeah, well, he's smarter than I am. Okay, all this newfangled way of communication is way over my head. I'm an old school guy. Larry, we thank you, and we'll talk to you next week and see what you come up with for future podcasts.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Larry Williams from Tiger Illustrated. All right, so Clemson fans, you've got yourselves a very good podcast to go and listen to. And hear from people related to the Clemson side of things. How about back to Will Muschamp now?
We have Will Muschamp talking about his concerns about the 2018 campaign and, of course, the immediate test involving the Chanticleers of Coastal Carolina.
The unknowns would be the depth on both lines of scrimmage. I mentioned some young men earlier, Dylan Wallen, Javon Gwynn, Jordan Rhodes. Those guys haven't played. Chandler Farrell in game-like situations. Ricky Sandage, J.J. Mbare, those guys have not played in game-type situations. The unknowns of some of the freshmen that are listed in the two deep that are definitely going to play. How are they going to respond in front of 80,000 people? I mean, those are always concerns going into the game. I have utmost confidence in all those young men, but how will they respond when the lights turn on? And that's something you never know.
Will, Coastal didn't have the greatest year last year, but they came that close to beating Arkansas. How much have you mentioned that game to the guys this week?
Well, we really haven't. Every week's a season around here, and we're going to totally focus and dial in on our opponent this week, and that's Coastal. And regardless of who we're playing or standing on the other sideline, we're going to respect our opponent. We're going to look at the schemes and what they do and what we need to do to win the football game, dial in on those things, and play the way we're capable of playing.
Will, Bryson and Jake were talking about the wristbands you handed out to the team. With everything going on next week, everyone knows how big of a game that is. How important is it, especially for the younger guys, to realize, hey, we got to take care of Coastal. I know you have a lot of respect for them, and then not look ahead and to just keep that motto all season.
Well, it's really our motto all the time, and I always talked about the players to every week as a season. So let's focus and be dialed in to what we can control this week, and that's playing Coastal. End of sentence. And really, whether it's in the meeting room, whether it's on the practice field, but all of our concentration needs to be there. And everybody else can talk about all the other stuff. We need to handle what we can control, and that's playing Coastal. And our preparation is so important for that. So that to me was my message for our team.
For you, the night before first game this season, what's it like? Are you nervous, excited? Do you sleep much? Like, what are those days for you?
I'm excited about it. Again, I don't you prepare your football team. You do everything you can do to put them in a situation to be successful. You make sure they're loose, they're focused, and understand the fun's in winning. So that's kind of where my mindset is. Once the hay's in the barn, so to speak, we get through with our walkthroughs on Friday. We have a team dinner on Friday night. We got a couple walkthroughs here and there that, we're just trying to make sure they're focused on what they need to do to be successful. And the great thing is we're kicking this thing off at noon. So when we get up in the morning, we're ready to go. Pre-game meals at 8 o'clock. Special teams walks at 7:45. We'll have another walkthrough before we get on the buses. And we get on the buses, come to Williams-Brice and see the Gamecock Nation.
Well, the turf out there looks great. Have you had a chance to go out there yourself? And are you going to maybe, unlike regular weeks, get the kids out there to run around some on it some to kind of test it out before Saturday?
No, I think it'll be fine. It looks great to me. I walked on it yesterday. It looked awesome. We did plan this. We actually had a plan for this. I know it shocks people, but we actually had a really good plan. They do this in almost every NFL stadium. They have a concert on a Saturday or Sunday. They have a lay-and-play turf. They put it down, and 7 days later they play on it. It's a phenomenal concept. Just lay it down, you play on it.
That is Will Muschamp. That's the last we're going to hear about the grass. And also, Fashion Police, as I mentioned earlier, garnet helmets, garnet jerseys, white pants, and instead of the block C on the garnet helmets corn, they are going to go with the very highly publicized script Carolina on the helmets. First time since 2015 that they've gone with that look, and the first time without the block C for a game since 1974.
So is this a permanent thing or just a season opening?
I think it's a season opening thing. They're trying to sell more gear and garb, Corn. I think they're just trying to get more people to buy the Carolina brand.
At the behest of Under Armour.
Yeah.
A couple of quick things before we leave you. Alshon Jeffrey going to be out for the first 2 games of the season, dealing with some injury stuff. This was reported by ESPN. And I want to thank the good folks here at Limestone for being good to us. Coach Tony Iruli, thanks to him and the players, Jacoya Patton and Dalton Yates and the SID, Ernest Myers. They took good care of us. We wish them the best this football season. Back in the studios tomorrow. Thank you, Will. Thank you, Pro. And thank you, Brian. And thanks to all of you. We'll see you tomorrow night right here on Sports Talk.